Welcome to Inspirational Journeys, everyone. My name is Ann Harrison Barnes, and today I have the pleasure of introducing my special guest, Wendy Ledger. Hey, Wendy. Welcome to the show. Wendy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Uh-oh. Okay. Now, so
Wait, hold on a second.
is everything okay?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I live in Sonora, California, in Northern California, kind of among the trees out here. I'm married. I have 3 cats, and I've written 3 novels.
Wow. That's why you have you do the cats.
Exactly.
Yeah, which we're going to get into in a minute. So tell me
Okay.
what inspired you to become a writer?
I fell in love with books at a very early age. I just loved to read. And when I started reading, I just knew that I also wanted to write books. And when I was very young, I read the book Harriet the Spy. I don't know if have you ever read that book?
Yes.
Well, Harriet the Spy, yes,
Yes.
she really inspired me.
Oh,
So
wow.
I had my notebook and I wrote in it every day. I didn't have a spy route like Harriet the Spy, but I tried to take writing as seriously as she did.
It has been a long time, but I remember that one. Oh my gosh, the memories of good old days.
Yeah,
So, what other books did you read as a kid?
it's still very, uh, Charlotte's Web.
Oh yeah, what kid doesn't
Yeah,
read that one, right?
I know, the classic.
I know, right?
The Little Princess. Did you ever read that
I
one?
don't
In a
remember that
Secret
one.
Garden.
I think my daughter and my nieces and nephews may have.
Those
But
are 2 of my really favorite books.
wow. So, okay. So tell me about before we get into the talking cat fan, the loudest meow. Tell me a little bit about your other
Okay.
books. Are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm having a little bit of trouble. Can you hear me clearly? There's
Yeah.
sometimes when it, okay, good.
So tell me a little bit about the other 2 books that you read before this one.
Oh, A Little Princess in the Secret Garden. They're both written by Frances Hodgson Burnett, and
Right. I read The Secret Garden.
they're both written about young girls.
Right. I read The Secret Garden. I may have read The Little Princess.
And I think they both really inspired me because they talk about the power of imagination and the power of creativity and how that can just change your life seemingly by magic, but it's actually through kind of a change of attitude.
Right. So tell me about the other books that you've written aside from The Loudest Meow.
Okay, so I've written 2 other coming of age stories. The first was Joy Returns, and that one is about music and grief. It's a story about a young girl who, at the very beginning of the book, her father dies unexpectedly, and her father was her favorite person in the whole world. And so in her grief, in this little girl's grief, she was an only child, she discovered music, and specifically the piano, and that changed her life. And in Kate and the Horses, Kate is a girl who has difficulty making friends. She seems to have a talent for saying the wrong things at the wrong time. And through her connection with horses, she learns how to make connections with people.
Wow. Now I'm gonna have to get these 2 books because I definitely want to read these now, especially the one about music because I love music and that is definitely a source of healing. Because I've been through some tough times in my life, and it got me through. So now I'm telling you, I have discovered recently my love of fantasy. And guys, you have got to go get The Loudest Meow, the Talking Cat Fantasy.
Yes.
That one of her, oh gosh, I can't remember the series. I was looking at it earlier, but the first book of her cat fantasy series. And I can't remember the name of the series right off the top of my head. But anyway, you've got to go get that one.
It's the Cats of the Afterlife. Yeah.
Right, Cats in the Afterlife, right. I don't know why my brain just went
I know.
inspired this book.
What inspired the book was we had a calico cat who died really unexpectedly, and it was a shock, and she was a beloved member of our household, and we knew for just a couple of days that she either had to like turn it around really quickly or that she was going to die. And during that time when those days, she wouldn't eat, and we knew that it was not going to work out the way we wanted it to. And so I told her that I would write a book and have her be the star, because I knew that I was going to be devastated without her in our lives. So that's how it all started. And then a lot of the other cats in the book are cats that we've had in our lives before too. So wow. That's how it began.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Marmalade was just this hoity-toity kind of, I know everything kind of cat. I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah. Oh, anyway, so I'm sorry about the connection. I don't know why we're having problems. Guys, you guys just forgive the technical difficulties here. Don't we love technology? But yeah, so I noticed that all your cats were like spirit cats. So that let me know that you're definitely a spiritual person. So but yet there were Nick and Molly and then maybe a couple of dogs. But was it hard to write this book from a cat's point of view?
Oh, and I think that for me, even when I was growing up, I always have felt connected to animals. They've always given me enormous comfort and solace, and I've always felt that we were, just two souls communing on earth. I've really always felt a great deal of respect and reverence for animals, and so it's not easy. It's not difficult for me to imagine what they're thinking or feeling or imagining stories about them. It's something I've done all my life.
Wow. Yeah, I've read like a few like Alarera and Watership Down and Tales from Watership Down and some other books with animals in them, but this is the first one I've actually this is the first one I've actually read with that was told by cats, which I thought was really unique. So you said your second book is coming out in the fall, right?
Yes, it's at the copy editor right now.
Oh, so do you self-publish these, or do you?
I self-publish. So I have a whole process that I go through where I have my beta readers read it, and then I revise. Then my developmental editor reads it and makes sure the story works. Then I revise. Then the copy editor goes through it. Then I revise. Then the proofreader goes through it. Then I revise.
Oh,
it goes to my production person.
Right. Because I was just wondering about that. I'm doing a bit of both, actually. I'm working with a hybrid publisher to get 3 of my books done now. So, and I will talk to you guys.
Oh, wonderful.
Listen to the podcast. I will talk to you guys more about that process in a later episode. So did you choose your narrator for the audiobook?
Yes. I went through a company called Findaway Voices.
Yes,
and they have a it's a wonderful company, I think. And if you don't have a narrator, which I didn't have, you go through an audition process where their casting director picks like maybe 7 or 8 narrators that you can listen to. And then you can choose as many as you want to audition, and you can choose like a 350 word segment of your book for them to perform for you. And then you can make a choice from there. So because The Loudest Meow has a lot of cats and a lot of emotions, I chose a scene where there was a lot of cats talking and having a lot of feelings about things.
Mm-hmm.
And my narrator that we eventually chose, Kate Amino, was just wonderful. So,
she was great.
So we're really happy about the way it turned out. Wasn't she wonderful?
Yes, she was. I thought, my gosh, she sounds so young to be doing this, but she was great. She really pulled Marmalade's character off really well. And all of the cats, each cat had their own special voice, and it was just amazing. I love audio.
Yes.
Are your other 2 books in audio?
Oh, I'm really glad you enjoyed it too. I love it. Me too.
Are the other 2 books in audio?
Not yet. I hope to see my pennies and get that to happen, but not yet. Yeah.
Okay. When you went through Find Away Voices, did you go through did you go through either Draft to Digital or Smashwords for that, or did you go straight to them? And because I know they have a setup fee if you're not going through either one of those.
Yeah. Yeah, I just went straight to them.
Oh, okay.
I just went straight to them.
Oh, okay. Because I know either Draft to Digital or Draft to Digital and Smashwords has an affiliation with them where they waive the setup fee if you go through either one of the publishers. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. They do. So
but that was one thing that I liked about them.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was going to say that was one thing I liked about it too, was when you sign up with Find a Way, you put your document, you like download your document, and they have some sort of tool where they can tell you how long they think the recording will be, because the fee is per finished hour. So you have a really good sense when you start, like how much it will be. So that's always nice to know.
Yeah. So. I didn't know, because I know I haven't heard anybody mention that on when they use ACX, but that's good to know with Find Away Voices.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really good. That way you kind of have an idea of what your fee is going to be at the end of it. So I was going to ask if there's anything you're currently working on, but we know that's that second book. Are you a plotter or a pantser? Tell me a little bit about your process.
Yes, I am a plotter. I really need to have a really good sense of where my book is going, or otherwise I feel lost. I feel more lost. I still sometimes feel lost with an outline, but I feel more lost if I don't have anything. I definitely need a pretty good map on where I'm going.
Well, I as a writer myself, I do a little bit of plotting, very loose plotting, but I used to pants a lot. But now I've started doing more loose plotting. So do you actually do a strict outline, or is it more loose and you can be more flexible?
Yeah, well, I guess it's not like a strict outline in terms of like Roman numerals and A's and B's and stuff like that. I actually use do you use Scrivener, Anne?
No, I don't. I use Word.
Okay. I use Scrivener. And on Scrivener, they have this feature called the bulletin board. That's what I call it, at least. I think that's what they call it, too. Where they have, like, digital index cards. So a lot of times I will put, like, ideas or what I think will be a chapter on a digital card, and then I'll move them around. So that's kind of like my outline, I guess.
What some people call a storyboard, right?
Yeah, I guess that's true. So I just try to make sure that there's like a connection between each chapter. Like, what would the character, like, okay, if the character's on a quest, what would be the next thing that this character would do? Or how, you know, from that event that just occurred, like what's going to happen next? What does that character need to do? So that kind of thing, just kind of making sure that there's like a connection between each chapters, and it makes sense, and it's going towards the character's ultimate place, even if it means that they're, you know, having, you know, defeats and downfalls, which of course they have to have during the story.
Yeah, to move the story forward and make it interesting. So tell me a little bit about world building. Did you have an idea when you built the world for your cats, after, you know, your spirit cats? Did you have a world map, or did you create as you went? How did that work?
I created as I went. And you probably had this experience too. I think all writers do, where something just pops up, like for in The Loudest Meow, there's a station of new and lost souls.
Right.
And there's the keeper of the stories, the gray cat. The gray cat was just appeared in my head. I've never had a gray cat like that. I wish I had, but I haven't. And the same thing with the station of new and lost souls. It just seemed to kind of, that place just, I don't know where, it just kind of came to me.
Kind of like a ground zero.
And then I wanted, and I wanted to play around a little bit with Rainbow Bridge, and I like the idea of the cats living in a place similar to where we live.
So using their home base.
Yes, because it's very comforting me, and I actually believe it, but it's very comforting me to think that there's still this connection, and we keep tabs on each other, and we care about each other, you know.
Right.
Continually.
Right. I kind of get that too. Even though I'm a Christian, I'm a spiritual person too, and I swear sometimes I see my former guide dog Star, my first guide dog that I ever had. Sometimes I think I see her in my dreams.
Oh yeah, I do that too.
Wow.
Yeah, I do.
Because I've had dreams constantly about having a guide dog, and I can't figure out why. And then my fantasy that I'm working on, I'm still in the first draft of it, but I'm on to other things first. But the fantasy I'm working on, one of my characters, she has a shape-shifting guide dog. And I don't know if that was kind of that was one of the inspirations for this fantasy. But then there was another one. I'll have to talk about that on a later show. That's a whole nother podcast in itself, because we could definitely sit and talk about fantasy all day long. But I wonder, do you get inspired by dreams too?
Yes. Here's kind of a funny story, but when I was going to write Kate and the Horses, I had a dream where I felt like I dreamed a whole book. It was an adult book, and I felt like I knew the chapters, I knew everything. It was super detailed. And I woke up in the middle of the night and I thought, maybe I should write this down. And then I thought, oh no, I'll remember it. So then I went back to bed, and I woke up the next day and I couldn't remember any of it. The only thing I could remember was that it was about horses. And the thing I felt was like, oh, I can't believe it. And then I thought, no, I made this vow to myself that I would not be critical of my creative process. I would not get down on myself about things, about that. So I just said, okay, that's all I know, and that's just the way it is. And then, this is kind of strange, but I started hearing voices in my head, and they sounded, and I knew who they were right away. They were like the voices of the horses I knew as a kid, even though I never heard those horses speak to me. But all of a sudden I recognized when I heard these voices, I knew exactly who they were. So I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book about you. Yes. So I wrote a book about the horses.
I understand that.
As a kid.
I understand that completely. Trust me. Yes, and sometimes when you're writing it, and have you ever had this? And of course, from one writer to another, have you ever had this where your character, will actually, you feel like the character's leading you on their journey, and you're just following right behind, and you have to sit down and write it? Because that happens to me.
Oh, let me tell you, for Joy Returns, this character appeared to me, or I heard this character, and it was this really bossy grandmother, and she says, I'm going to be in the story. I'm like, you're not in the story. I don't know you. I don't want you in my story. She's like, I want to be in the story, and I want to be in the first chapter, and I want to make a really dramatic entrance. And I was just like, no. And she kept on bugging me. And so finally I was just like, okay, I'll put you in the draft. I'm thinking to myself, I will write her out immediately. But she ended up being a really important character. She got in the first chapter. She got everything she wanted. And I was happy to do it because I really grew to love this character. So yes, that is definitely.
And I haven't asked any authors this before, but do you have a special place that you go to brainstorm? Like for me, it's out on the front porch.
Oh, nice. I like to take walks, oftentimes on walks. We have a nice, and I'm feeling a little sad about this right now because we are going to need to move from our home. But right now where we live, right across the street, there's a really nice trail. And there's beautiful trees, all different kinds. And I love to walk there, and I often have ideas there. But yeah, it's interesting for me. Do you have this feeling that they just seem to sometimes just pop up? Like I don't go like, I need to figure this out. It's usually just like I'll say that, and then like, an hour or two later, I'll figure out a solution to that or something. But yeah.
Exactly. I'll be praying about it, and I'll be walking around the house.
That's how it works.
I'm in the, because
for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. But what I was going to say is, we walk in, because we live in the country, and I walk around the house to get some fresh air and get my exercise and stuff. And I'm telling you, one time, just something as simple as a bucket actually ended up was the inspiration I needed for a chapter of one of the stories I'm working on. So yeah. You're right. It things like that. It just happens. Or I'll see the end result. I'll have a dream that's symbolic of my stories. Oh, I could tell you about that.
Yeah.
Later on, but that's just wow.
It's really true.
Okay, so now that we talked a little bit about world building, I've got a big question to ask you before we end the interview. So, if you could have a conversation with or be educated by anyone in the world, past or present, who would it be and why?
I would pick J.K. Rowling because I loved Harry Potter. I loved the Harry Potter series so much, and it was such a huge achievement. And just the organization beyond it, and how she figured everything out and did everything. I would just really love to talk with her about how she did it.
Wow. I've heard other people say that on other podcasts too, but I don't think anybody else has told me that. Maybe they have, but I have to go back and look. But that would be really cool. Yeah, because I love books too.
It'd be very fun. Yeah.
So where can people find you online?
I have a website, wendyledgerauthor.com.
Okay.
I'm on Twitter, where you and I met, Wendy L. Books. And I have an Instagram at Wendy L. Author. At Wendy Ledger Author.
Right. Yeah, I'll put all that in the show notes. And I do appreciate you sending me your writing resources. I've listened to the Story Grid podcast, but some of it I found some of it to me was just not, I don't know, it was more distraction, and plus I had to cut back on some podcasts I was listening to for the sake of time. But I wonder, I wonder if Tim Grahl ever got his debut novel published yet.
Yeah, that's really funny because that podcast was really important to me at a certain point in my writer's life. I learned a lot about genre and scene, and then I kind of felt like I had a sense of it, and I kind of moved on. So I don't know if Tim ever finished his book or not. I don't know. But it was very important. I felt that it was important. And also I would like to say that I bought the Story Grid book, and it wasn't for me. And I think that is such an important thing for writers to think about, is what's the best way that they learn. Not everything is for everyone. Like for me, the Story Grid book, I'm not a visual person, I'm an auditory person. So the graphs and the lines and all that kind of stuff it just overwhelmed me. But I could listen to Sean Coyne's ideas through audio and get a lot out of it. So it's something to really think about, I think, as writers. What is the best way that you learn, and who are your best teachers? Because
Right.
you need a certain style, a certain kind of personality, a certain way that it's expressed that makes sense to you. Yeah.
Right. They were talking about the spreadsheet, and one time Sean was talking to him through the spreadsheet, and I'm going, that would be way too confusing for me.
I know. I recently, when I was writing The Sharpest Claw, which is the second book, when I was writing my draft, I had like 2 novels in one book, but I didn't know it. I had to have my readers and my developmental editor help me figure that out. So when I was starting to get feedback that it was like that, I was like, oh, this is going to be huge. But I read this book, Save the Cat Writes a Novel, and that was a really good book for me. But, actually, I listened to it. I put it on audio, and I took notes. And that was a really good learn. But she gives a lot of examples from different genres and different kinds of books on what she's talking about. And that seemed really helpful to me. I think that's a book that I'm going to go back to over and over again.
Yeah, Mer Lafferty, if you've ever listened to the I Should Be Writing podcast, she also talks about that one. She also recommends that one.
Okay. Do you like that podcast?
Yeah, I like that one. Ditch Digger, the language was a bit too much for me. And plus, sometimes they would talk about the business of writing, but then there were times it was kind of funny because Matt Wallace would talk about, this has nothing to do with anything. For a few minutes, he'd get into that. It was kind of funny. But like I said, for the sake of time, I had to, figure out which podcasts were more important and which ones I could cut back on.
Okay. I'm going to try that. I Should Be Writing.
Yeah, because she does that, if not every week, at least once a month. So it depends on her schedule, because now she's a traditionally published author, and she's an editor too. But now that's one person I'd love to have on the show too, if she would be willing to. But it just depends. But yeah, I definitely would recommend I Should Be Writing.
Right. Okay, I'm gonna give that one a try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she was talking about that. I've got to find that book too, because there's another book that a friend of mine recommended to me about blurbs, and I got to find that one too.
Oh, was it Brian Cohen? Mm-hmm.
I think so.
I have that one. It's good.
Oh wow. Yeah, I think it was Brian Cohen. I've gotten emails from him on his email list somewhere. I've gotten some emails. I think it's like not Winning Writers. Something else, but I've heard of him through something online. But yeah, I want to check his book out. Yeah.
He has a podcast that I listen to, which is all right. But he just strikes me as a good person and a good teacher.
Oh wow!
I like him. Mm-hmm. His book on blurbs is really good. I think I have to read it again now, because I always have to read it before I read a blurb, because I find writing blurbs very hard.
I know, me too. I have an author friend. She gave me some ideas, and I have to get her to send me those notes again, and maybe I have them. I have to look. But she gave me some suggestions on writing blurbs too, because she and I met through her podcast. But okay, so do you have any questions for me?
I don't think so right now. It's been a real pleasure meeting you and getting to know you a little better. I'll probably have questions in the future that I'll tweet to you and stuff.
Yeah, do feel free to tweet to me. And one more question I had that I was thinking about this morning and I almost forgot it. What is this Adopt an Audiobook? I saw that on Twitter. Kind of tell us a little bit more about that real quick.
Oh, okay. So I run a promotion through the Audio Bookworm, and she has a feature called Adopt an Audiobook, where for different genres, and you can just say, I would like to adopt this book, And the author hopes that the person will write an honest review, but there's no strings attached. You can do whatever you want, and you can just adopt a book for free.
Oh, okay. Because I saw
Yeah.
that, and I went to the Audible, listened to the sample, and used one of my credits to get it. So,
Well, thank you.
yep.
Yeah.
And I saw a few others I was going to look into, but I'm like, nah, this is the one that I saw the tweet from. So I'm looking at, and then I listened to the sample. I'm like, oh yes, I like this because I love a good fantasy. And it was not really long. It was really short.
Yeah, it's not that long.
Right. And is this book like for adult audiences, or can kids read it and get something out of it, or is it a little too complex for what age ranges?
I generally say like 10 and up. I know some younger kids who have listened to it or read it and have enjoyed it, but I think 10 and up. I think the language is simple enough that kids will understand, but I think it's mainly a book for people who really love cats.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're children or adults or wherever they land on that question.
Yeah, because I've got my daughter's 10, and I was thinking about getting the paperback version for her. I loved it, and I'm hoping she likes it because I really love this book. I wonder, will Jim make an appearance in The Sharpest Claw?
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm really excited about the second one. I hope you love that one too. And then there'll be at least 2 more after that. So we'll see. Yeah, I've got some ideas.
Will Jim be in this one?
Oh yeah.
Oh good. She's not the shy cat she was at the beginning. She definitely has grown. I can tell you that. And I don't want to it.
Yeah, she sure did.
Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show. It has been a pleasure. And now I'm going to add any final words before we close out?
No, I just want to say thank you so much, Anne. This has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed this a lot.
It's great to have you. Guys, we challenge you to go out there and read to get inspired, write something inspiring, and share your creation with the world. For when you've touched one life, you've touched 1,000. Thanks so much for joining us on Inspirational Journeys, and have a blessed day.